Greetings, my name is Blaze, and today I wanted to talk about the word magician. Magician is a term that can kind of be used in more ways than most people might think of or imagine. Before we get into magician, I want to talk a little bit about magic. Now, obviously, I've got many different types of videos talking about magic of all sorts, whether it's actual spiritual magical mysticism or talking about performance magic, because I do both. I want to refer to etymology because we're talking about the origin or root of a word and its meaning. And I want to talk about magic. And I'm, of course, going to link below etymology.com specifically to the magic word. Let's talk about where it comes from. So, late 14th century, art of influencing or predicting events and producing marvels using hidden natural forces, also supernatural art, especially the art of controlling the actions of spiritual or superhuman beings. And then, of course, it refers to a couple words that it might have derived from in different languages, all of which I'll probably butcher the pronunciation, so we'll move on. The transferred sense of legerdemain, again, probably butchering it, optical illusion, etc., which is from 1811. It has displaced the Old English witchcraft, also drycraft, from dry, magician, from Irish druid, or drew, priest, magician, see druid. Natural magic in the Middle Ages was that which did not involve the agency of personal spirits. It was considered more or less legitimate, not sinful, and involved much that would be explained scientifically as the manipulation of natural forces. Now, obviously, there can be some variances depending on the book or source or history that you're reading about as far as where magic comes from and what its meaning might be now or used to be. I actually like one of the phrases that I've heard, which is, yesterday's magic is today's science. This kind of goes along with what is actually listed on etymology.com, and that's talking about here where it says, involved much that would be explained scientifically as the manipulation of natural forces. I think this falls in line very closely with a lot of the research and study that I have done, which is talking about magic as a way of interacting with the world and natural forces. A lot of what we do today, a lot of the science that we have today, was in fact referred to as magic as I understand it. Obviously, I didn't live back then, unless you believe in past lives, but still, me as I am now in this incarnation, in this lifetime, was not alive back then. So talking about magic and talking about how to interact and be part of the world and make it do what you want to do, whether that be through modern chemistry, again, derived from some of the magical practices, or even modern medicine with some of the herbal remedies and things that we get a lot of our medicines from. There's a plethora of different sciences out there, metallurgy, etc., that has its origins and roots with interacting and knowing the environment and the world around you. The studies of the world eventually evolved into the sciences of today. That's not to say that magic just disappeared and the term's gone, because we still hear it today. In fact, a lot of people will use the term magic to refer to just the spiritual manipulation, the energy work, the mental focuses, the meditation, the casting of spells to protect or cleanse or guide or whatever the case may be. A lot of these practices, they think those are the only things that are magic, but they forget about the fact that even the use of electricity or turning on the light switch or the use of the computer or, again, taking medication, all of these things have their roots and origins in magic. Many of the individuals that consider themselves magic practitioners, they live the magic. It's part of their everyday life. It's not just something they set aside. It's how they interact. Everything has this magic to it. And then they overlook some of the things such as the performances that are done, not just by performance stage magicians, but also by any performer, whether it be singing or art or poetry or dance or any of those. Just any sort of expressive art is in itself a type of magic. You are manifesting these images or this music or the sound or just this creativity from within you, you're manifesting it and bringing it out into the world. And that art in itself is magic. So when you talk about using the term magician, you're talking about, again, referring to etymology. If you go to etymology.com, I'll also link this below as well, late 14th century, one skilled in magic or sorcery. From Old French, not even an attempt to pronounce that because I'll probably butcher it. So you can also jump over to, even if you would prefer, dictionary.com, who says something very similar. An entertainer who is skilled in producing illusions by sleight of hand, deceptive devices, etc., a conjurer. Or a person who is skilled in magic or sorcery. So again, you're seeing magic and sorcery used side by side. I will save that for a different video, but I would actually separate those two out because sorcery is a type of magic, but I don't consider them to be side by side the same thing. So you have the umbrella term of magic and sorcery, something would fall underneath it, and a practitioner of sorcery would be a sorcerer. So a little bit different in my opinion, but again, we won't get into that right now. The reason I'm bringing these up is because these are terms that are used more broadly and it's out there. So it's not necessarily just my definition. It's a definition that is more broadly used. The point I'm trying to bring up with that is magician is somebody who practices magic, whether it be stage magic or spiritual magic. It is a practitioner of magic. So when you find yourself following or trying to seek or look for a path that is accepting to magic, because let's face it, many paths don't necessarily accept magic. Individuals think, well, I don't know what to call myself. Well, first of all, if you're following a specific spiritual tradition, you would call yourself by that name, whether it be a witch or a druid or a Wiccan or a Taoist or an Alcitor, whatever the case may be. If you're looking for a specific path and you follow that path, that's what you can call yourself if you're looking for a name or a term. I do have another video that specifies talking about what should you call yourself. And it's, just be yourself. You don't have to have a name. But here's a name and here's a word that you can use that is more generic. You can call yourself a magician. The magician can both refer to the stage performer and the actual practitioner because, again, it is someone who practices magic. And magic, as we've just talked about through most of this video, the whole point was magic can refer to not only modern science, but it can also refer to art. It can also refer to the feeling and sensation that an audience gets by watching a performer. And it can also refer to the spiritual or magical mysticism type of practices as well. So magician is universal. Now, here's the thing. There's actually a wonderful YouTube channel out here by David Delman. And David Delman is a stage performer. And as I understand it, he had mentioned in some of his videos that he actually had done some study into some of the other mystic art type of forms. And he feels that that helps to portray his performance better by knowing some of the practices that were done. And I actually can kind of agree with that. I think that is an excellent point that he brings up because, again, by researching both actual magical mysticism and stage performance, when you are performing, it's kind of like getting into that role and portraying it better. Someone who's just kind of waving around a wand, which if they're using it for a distraction, if it's completely gimmick free, just a distraction, a misdirection, a classic stage magician's wand, versus waving it around like someone who would use it in an actual ritual or ceremony. You can kind of see that, and you can see this authenticity to their practice, to their art, to their craft. It brings another level to their performance, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of the point there. When you're talking about a stage magician, they are trying to portray real magic, thus using the generic term of magician, because you're taking out the aspect of religion or spirituality and you're focusing just on the magic itself. And of course, a performer's main goal is to entertain you, but they're giving you a type of magic by drawing you into this world where the impossible becomes possible, and you can feel this childlike revitalization of life where you just, wow, you have this moment of amazement where you don't fully understand what's going on in front of you, but you're entertained and you feel this joy and this happiness. And that is one reason why some individuals like myself love to do stage performances with magical illusion and trickery because it's fun. It's enjoyable. We like to make people smile and make them feel young again. So again, the term magician is a great term to use for yourself in either scenario. Now, obviously, even with stage performance magic, you can have different terms based upon your specialization in that type of a craft. So you can be, a close-up magician, you can be a card magician, you can be a mentalist, you can be a cabaret magician, you can be a bazaar, whatever type of magic that you want to get into for stage performances, you can classify yourself within a specific type of magic if you'd like. But likewise, if you are a spiritual practitioner and you want to do magic and you don't feel the calling to one specific path, you haven't had training in one specific path, there you go. You have the generic term magician, which could still apply to you. Even though most folks, if they do hear it, they're going to make the assumption of stage performances. Remember the root and the origin of the word. And again, if you're following a spiritual path, the idea and the objective, at least in my opinion, should not be to go out there and get everyone to be impressed with the fact that you're following a spiritual path and that's what you are, and you're announcing it and screaming it from the rooftops of the world. It is your own personal path. But at the same time, if you are speaking with other individuals because you are thinking of getting into a group, a grove, or a coven, or whatever the case may be, they should at least be semi-receptive to the fact of what a magician is somebody who does do magic. So there you go. Post your thoughts below. Do you think magician would fit yourself or a practitioner of just the spiritual arts? Or do you feel like it should be reserved just for stage performances? Because even in stage performances, not all folks use the term magician anymore. They use illusionist or any of those other terms to kind of specify the type of performance magic that they do. So yeah, in either case, leave your thoughts and comments below. Remember to thumb up, like, and subscribe, and more videos coming your way. Thanks for watching.